Light turned and time paused. A sensor blinked once. Timestamp May 9, 2025. The Comet 3I Atlas drifted through the field of the Comet Interceptor. Its nucleus seemed fixed, but the ion tail bent the wrong way. Charged dust curved toward the source, light flowing back to dark. ESA instruments recorded the shift without sound. Ultraviolet scatter dropped, plasma density thinned, then brightened again in the reverse direction. The data showed motion, the image showed stillness. Beyond the comet's edge, sunlight fractured into two lines. One pointed outward, the other folded inward like a returning breath. Between them lay a zone of balanced charge, no push, no pull, only suspension. The dust arcs shimmered against black sky, thin as smoke, pale as reflection. Nothing in the field of force predicted return, and yet it came. Spectrometers traced the ions back toward the nucleus. Electrostatic pull overcame radiation pressure.
Inversion.
Every grain of charged matter turned homeward. It looked like gravity learning a new language. A note in the archive marked the anomaly. Ion drift reversal confirmed. Camera 4 registered a soft inward beam, wavelength close to neon blue. A faint hum passed through the instruments. Voltage held steady. Each pixel of the tail recorded one truth illumination could move both ways. The sky around the comet stayed perfectly still. Only light changed direction. The dark did not resist. It accepted what returned. Somewhere beyond measurement, motion became rest, and rest began to shine. The optical array stabilized. Telemetry aligned to within 1,000th precision. Comet Interceptor turned once, holding the comet's tail in full view. Nothing moved except light itself. Ion density fluctuated across a narrow band of plasma. Photons scattered backward along the same line they came from. Each pixel on the screen was both departure and return. The algorithm called it inversion. The engineers called it impossible. ESA's deep spectrograph divided the glow into wavelengths. Blue shifted into red, red into silence. The math held energy conserved. Direction reversed. The field became its own mirror. Every 5 seconds, current spiked, then fell again. Power systems recorded the rhythm as if the machine were breathing. Between spikes, a pause long enough to notice. Light did not fade, it folded. A note in the control log read, "Tail flow inversion stable." No explanation followed. Motors adjusted micro angles. Ion sensors recalibrated. The readings stayed the same. Even radiation pressure bowed to electrostatic pull. A structure of order built itself from reversal. For a heartbeat, the field flickered. The room felt alive for a breath. Motion pressed against the frame and sprang back. Light climbed and settled again. Then quiet resumed. Graphs showed energy equilibrium, a flat plane where chaos once lived. No error margin, no anomaly tag, only return. An old spectrograph note from 2I Borisov showed similar flow, but never full reversal. 3I Atlas had crossed that line, ion arcs bending homeward like rivers of light. Voltage dropped 2%. Cooling fans steadied. Data packets left the probe, their checksum perfect, their story unfinished. Inside the archive, the same pattern repeated, an image of light finding balance through surrender. Every instrument confirmed what no theory could. The universe allowed backward motion without contradiction. No gravity well was deep enough to pull light. Yet here it was illumination returning to origin. The hum of machines blended with the void. The signal faded, leaving afterglow as quiet proof. A chair rolled back with a quiet scrape. The console hummed and the room grew still. Someone leaned closer to the monitor. A pencil rested on an open page. The line of light on the graph seemed to breathe. We waited with it. The air seemed to listen. Coffee cooled beside the keyboard. The hum of cooling fans filled the pause. Outside, stars remained fixed. The comet hung like a thought in motion. Its tail shimmered backward through darkness motion without distance.
Heat into cold air.
On Earth, the ocean's tide performs the same gesture each night, retreating only to return. Light, too, had found its own tide. A reversal so gentle it felt like patience. Every reading whispered balance. Illumination did not vanish, it folded inward. The sense of return was steady, almost human. Someone wrote in the margin, light behaving as memory hit. Leonardo would have drawn this with measured calm. Kubrick would have held the frame until motion dissolved. Sagan would have said nothing, letting the silence describe the law. The data screens pulsed like heartbeats. Ion traces glowed faintly blue, then dimmed, then glowed again. A rhythm too deliberate to be random. A brief flare crossed the graph. For a heartbeat, the field flickered. The room felt alive for a breath. Light climbed and settled again. Then everything slowed. Energy flattened into grace. Even the instruments seemed relieved to rest. We looked at each other, not for answers, but for confirmation that reversal could feel this calm. It was like watching wind move backward through a field, each stalk bending to memory instead of force. The concept of return had changed meaning. It was not retreat, but recollection, the universe remembering itself in reverse. Someone adjusted focus. A reflection trembled on the glass. We realized the comet's backward light was less defiance, more forgiveness. The cosmos allows even illumination to come home. A faint tremor passed through the speakers. Static became music for half a second, then cleared. In that soundless echo, we sensed continuity light as an act of patience. Everywhere, lines of force rested. Each wavelength found its twin. The space between signal and silence grew wide enough to include both. We spoke quietly. No one said impossible anymore. Reversal had become rule. Outside, the dark carried the reflection of its own light. Inside, we carried its rhythm. We understood less, but saw more. Light moved backward through darkness, and darkness did not object. It only held the shape of what returned. The data called it inversion. The moment called it forgiveness. No force was broken. Only direction had changed its mind. If illumination can fall inward, then perhaps gravity is not a pull, but an agreement. A shared rhythm between energy and stillness. Two laws stood face-to-face: radiation that should escape and charge that should release. Yet neither retreated. They met halfway and became balance. It was not collapse. It was conversation. A dialogue of light and rest. Between the comet and the void, a quiet exchange continued. The field and the weight met at a single word: return. The universe had turned its own gaze inward. ESA's optical data converged from 4 sensors. Spectral variance between forward and reverse emission measured identical intensity. Photon counts balanced within margin of 0.1%. Every number whispered symmetry. Phew. The tail reversal was not loss of energy. It was redistribution. Radiation pressure and electrostatic attraction met equilibrium. No collision, no noise, only coherence. Comet interceptors' readings showed ions slowing near the nucleus. Their velocity dropped, then changed sign, then held steady as if orbiting absence. A cycle of surrender written in plasma. Data packets streamed back toward Earth. Each bit mirrored its predecessor. Information folding inward like thought, recalling memory. What began as proof became metaphor. The universe did not expend light, it rehearsed it. Every reversal, a rehearsal for return. The human body performs this too. The breath that leaves the chest must fall back again. Exhale, then patience. Inhale, then calm. Dataset echoed body. Machine echoed breath. Numbers aligned with rhythm. No distinction remained between signal and stillness. The chart resembled a heartbeat stretched across vacuum. In that quiet trace, understanding deepened. A subtitle formed without being spoken return is another word for balance. The scientists watched, each knowing they had recorded something that refused drama. Light had gone home and left no mark. Yet the absence itself glowed. Space remembered the path it had let go. Energy folded inside darkness without resistance. Across monitors, the reverse tail persisted, blue fading into amber, amber into night. Nothing was missing. The law of radiance remained generous. It was not a miracle, only a truth seen from the other side. Observation turned inward. Discovery became reflection. Silence widened, answers narrowed. Facts remained, confidence humbled. The pattern endured. The meaning thinned and brightened. And from that calm, we heard what light had been trying to say, that even illumination must rest, and in resting, shine again. Graphs became light, light became memory, memory became balance. The comet no longer moved. It was the still point inside movement. Tails folded into themselves, and ions drifted like dust, remembering where to land. All values blurred into color. Frequency turned soft. Wavelengths stretched into calm. No data remained, only rhythm. The silence around the nucleus felt almost warm. It held what the instruments had released. Every count of photons became a breath. Light shimmered once, as if to confirm its rest. Then even that motion stopped. We watched until numbers disappeared into their meaning. The field and the void exchanged nothing, and that nothing was exact. What was measured became seen. What was seen became felt. The work of the machines became the patience of light itself. Distance turned into nearness. Distance rested on awareness. It was not the end of data, but the beginning of quiet proof. The image stayed. The measure stood. And between them, understanding folded inward like a closing petal. Silence stayed longer than motion. Every trace line had settled. Every wavelength had found its rest. The comet's reversed light drifted in thought, a single gesture repeating itself without energy. Nothing moved, yet everything held. ESA confirmed final telemetry. The readings matched the beginning exactly. Gain 0.1%, loss 0.1%. A closed equation written in calm. The data no longer demanded explanation. It only asked to be seen. A researcher leaned back. The hum of the console carried the same rhythm as before. Hands rested on the metal frame of the desk. The monitor washed the wall in soft glow. No applause followed, only breath. The quiet between them was as measured as light itself. Vermeer would have kept this still frame untouched. Sagan would have let the silence finish the report. Tarkovsky would have left the room in shadow. They did the same. No one moved to close the file. No one needed to. Outside, the sky did not blink. The dust, the light, and the field had agreed on stillness. Gravity and charge were not rivals now, but sentences in the same language. Balance appeared as a kind of return. The universe was not arguing. It was showing a rule. The field taught a quieter courage. We met ourselves in that quiet. The measure stood, our need for it less. The frame steadied, belief grew quiet. The map allowed us to rest, and balance remained.